Kind of just even go off of that event that happened last night, right? To think about what's going on with those students at that school right now. I don't know if any of you saw the news. Did anybody see the news last night about what happened? Right. So for those of you that didn't see, there was a man that came on campus, walked in a building that was open fire, killed 3 kids, or 3 people. 5 were injured. 4 needed to have surgery. But as I'm looking at it, I'm watching these kids. They're running across the street, right? They're in fear. They don't know what's going to happen. And the only thing that I could think of really is, who are they going to turn to? Right? Like who do these kids have that they can actually turn to? Now, I don't know if these are athletes. Some of them were. Some of them are regular students. But my question is, who are they going to turn to? I was having a conversation with Mandy outside just a little while ago. And 2 weeks ago, I got a text from my daughter. And the message said, we're on lockdown. Like, as a parent, for my daughter to text me and say we're on lockdown, the only thing that comes to my mind is we're on lockdown because there might be a shooter on campus. They need to protect my baby. And I pray to God that none of you have to go through any of that, right? But I want you to think about what my daughter went through and then what I went through as a parent in that very moment, right? Because the next thing that happened was I didn't hear from her. She was scared. And I'm not expecting her to give me, an update every 30 seconds about what's going on. No, I need her to make sure that she's safe. I need to make sure that she's okay. But as a parent, what that did to me was it made me realize that at any moment, something could happen. And she's going to need me to be there for her. Later on that evening, she texted me and she said, Daddy, I'm back at home. I'm okay. She lives in Houston. I live in El Paso. So you can understand or think about what I was helpless in that moment. So she texted me. She said, I'm okay. The very next thing I said to her was, what do you need from me right now? I said, you know what? Give me a call. Let's talk on the phone for about 5-10 minutes. Let me see where your headspace is at. So we had that conversation over the phone. And she said, Daddy, I was scared. I didn't know what to do. They put us into the classroom. We had to stand behind the door. They turned the lights out. I was scared. I said, well, how do you feel right now? And she said, I just don't know what to think next. I really don't want to go to school tomorrow. So as she's telling me this, I'm trying to figure out what to say. I have a 13-year-old daughter, 14 now, 14-year-old daughter who is telling me that she doesn't want to go back to school because she doesn't know what's going to happen next. But I have to tell her something in order to make her feel comfortable with going back to school, right? Because the one thing I don't want her to do is I don't want her to live her life in fear, right? And so I'm not really big on movies, but there was a movie that I was watching. It's called Emancipation. And it's got Will Smith in it. It's a great movie, right? During this movie, there's times where he's going through something every single day. There's a point in time where he's being chased by people through the woods, right? And one day he gets tripped up, he falls into the water, he sinks down for a little bit, he comes back up, and right when he thinks he's about to get away, a crocodile comes and grabs him from behind, yanks him back in, but he gets away. The very next day, he's running through this field again. He ends up having to hide into a tree. Now, when he's hiding in this tree, he sees the people that are chasing him. He stays calm. They get away. They go away. He goes on and continues trying to escape. The very next day, he sees where he needs to go. He sees his safe place, his home, where he's going to be taken care of. And as he's walking to this place, the people that were chasing him catch up to him. And what happened was the guy held a gun towards him. And Will Smith, hands up, thought his time was over. There were other people who came to his rescue, took this man out, and Will Smith was able to get to safety. But the reason why I'm telling you this is because the only thing that I could think of for my daughter is I told her, I said, I need you to just take it one day at a time. That's all we can do sometimes, is take it one day at a time. It's not always about getting through a month. Sometimes with our student athletes, it could be getting through the next hour. It can be getting through to the next day. That's the most important thing. Forget the week. Sometimes they can't even look that far because they're going through something right now in this moment that is so catastrophic to them that if they can make it through in the next hour, they'll feel okay. And when you really start to think about that, them just trying to make it through the next hour, what can you do in 1 hour to make them feel a little bit more comfortable in their skin with themselves? What are some things that you can say to them in that moment where you see them at a different personality level than what they normally show you, right? What are some things that you can say? And one thing I want you to think about is just saying, hey, how's everything going, man? Is everything okay? Just to let them know that they're being seen by somebody. Because it's very easy for us to just go by and say, hey, how you doing, Mandy? Everything okay? And we just say the words. Right? We're not actually listening to what's going on with them. We're listening because we think that's what we're supposed to do. We say those things because we think that's what we're supposed to do, but we're not really caring about the individual as a person. And until you get to that level where you actually care about that person outside of the sport, that's the only time when they actually feel that they can trust you. Because it's not just about the sport. It can't be just about the sport. If it was just about the sport, they wouldn't be here for academics. Right? And you have been put in this position. It's a very challenging position that you all are in. But at the same time, it is a very rewarding position that you're in right now. Because there's not many people in a lifetime that get an opportunity to touch 10 people in their lifetime, to bless 10 people in a lifetime. You get that chance every single day to change somebody else's life, to save somebody else's life. And when you think that you can save somebody's life, right, by just approaching them with the attitude of love, care, and gratitude, like when you do that, it doesn't do something just for them, it does something for you as well. It changes how you feel. I don't know what it is for any of you, but when I see other people smile, when I see other people laughing and happy and having a good time, I don't want to be sad. I enjoy being happy. So when I see other people smile, when I see other people happy, it does something to me. One thing that we can all do better at, and even with me being as positive as I am, we can all show somebody else more gratitude. We can always show somebody else more love. We can always show somebody else that we care about them. And we have to be able to show them that sometimes in a very firm way, right? Because like I said last night, we're all here to win games. Like, bottom line, you didn't sign up to coach to lose. None of you did. And I wouldn't expect that. But you have to be able to find the right approach to every student, because not every student is the same. Not every student is a robot to where they can just operate at 100%. How many of you in this room have operated at 100% every single day? Like every single day of your life, you've operated. But the problem is that as these young kids are going through their lives, we're expecting them to operate at a level that we have never operated at in our own lives. We're expecting them to operate at 100% and be the best individual that they can be every single day, and that's not how life works. I coached my daughter in volleyball for about 2 or 3 summers. She came out this year to El Paso right before her right before her 9th grade tryouts. And she's been going through some tough times before she got there. And so we're outside practicing one day, and I'm being tough. I'm probably the toughest coach she'll ever have. And that's just me because I'm competitive. I don't know how y'all are, but I'm competitive. If I'm playing water polo, I don't know nothing about water polo, but I'm playing to win. Right? I just have that level of competitiveness in me. So I'm really tough on her. And so one day we're outside and we're practicing, and she says, "Daddy, like, why are you being so hard on me right now? I had a tough day." I said, "Tough day? Wait, you my age, right? You know nothing about tough right now." But she said, "Dad, no, like for real, like I just had a rough day." I'm like, "All right, cool." I said, "Well, let me tell you something right now. Right now in this moment, I don't care. In this moment, I just don't care that you had a bad day. Because right now we have a goal that we're trying to achieve. We're trying to get you onto the 9th grade team. We're trying to make sure that you make the JV. So right now, you had a bad day. I just don't care right now." And what I was trying to teach my daughter was that sometimes in life, you can things. Like, I can have a bad day at work. That doesn't mean I get to come home. Rather than that I come home and be a bad man to my family just because I had a bad day at work. Like, sometimes we have to be able to shut things off here and be able to turn them on here and leave this to the side. Right? Like, sometimes we have to be able to do that. That's what I was trying to teach my daughter that day, because in life, like I said, you're going to have rough days at work where things just don't work out. You're going to have rough days at school where things just don't work out. But when you get to practice, when you get into the game, you have to have a different level of effort that you give me. And what I told her was, I said, I don't mind being tough on you. I enjoy it. I want you to be the best athlete that you can be. But at some point, I will understand what you're going through. Just not right now. And that's what I need some of you coaches to actually think about. I don't need you to just be tough on them all the time. What I need you to do is be tough, but be understanding. I'm not asking you to cut them a break. I'm asking you to understand them. Just understand that they're not robots. Just understand that they're going to have bad days. And when they have those bad days, I need you to be human enough to say, "Hey, if you're having a bad day, let me know. Because I can't understand what I don't understand." Like, if they don't tell you what's going on, you'll never know. And you'll just keep being tougher and tougher and tougher because they're not telling you, but you're expecting greatness out of them. You're expecting the best effort. You're expecting 120%. But if they don't open up to you, and if you haven't given them the safe space to open up to you, then you're always going to be at that every single. And I get it, right? Like, the expectation is to give 120%. And there's nothing wrong with setting the standard, right? But some days when you're operating at 80%, I need you to let your kids know, I need you to let your babies know that, look, I don't need you at 100% today. I need you to give me your best effort today. And understand that best effort, I'm not saying best effort is 60% and you can be lackadaisical and lazy. No. Don't get it twisted. I'm not for that lazy effort attitude, right? But at the same time, 100% effort is what I'm expecting. If you're at 80%, I'm still expecting 100% of that 80%. Like, that's what I need y'all to think about. I don't need you to push them so hard that you break them to a point to where they can't get back up. How many of you have had somebody cut you off in traffic and you got angry? Right? How many of y'all have shared those stories with them? Let me tell you why these small stories are the ones that you should share, because not everybody is willing to get up and do what I'm doing right now and tell students that I cut myself across my chest. Like not many people are willing to share the story that they've gone through something so traumatic that it has damaged them in their life. Like not many people are willing to do that, and that's okay. I'm not expecting you to just go out here and lay it all out on the table and tell them your life story. But tell them the moments where you have to be human. Tell them the small stories where somebody cut you off in traffic and you had to really look up and say, Lord, just help me in this moment right now, please. Like those are the stories that will actually save somebody as well. It's not always the big ones. They just need to see that you're just like them in moments. Like times these kids like all together. That's so far from the truth, right? So full transparency, right? For 3 years, I had a very rough time. I lost my job. I had just had a baby who, at the time when I lost my job, was 8 months. Shortly after that, I had an accident where I broke my neck and my back. Shortly after that, I went through a divorce. Shortly after that, I realized that I hadn't been a good father to my daughter. But nobody else would see that, right? Because we have to put up a front. We have to put up the mask where nobody can really see you in your weak moments, right? Like that's what we've all been taught to do. We've all been taught to where, you see another man can't see you weak, right? We've been taught that when people see you weak, that's when they take advantage of you. Don't trust another person with your vulnerabilities because that's when they take advantage of you. But this is supposed to be a family. Tennessee Tech Athletics is supposed to be a family. If we can't trust each other with some of our weakest moments, then who do you have to turn to? And then if we can't do that as adults, how can we preach it to our kids? Like how can we tell our kids that I want you to be able to open up to me, but you haven't opened up one bit to them? You haven't told them one story about how you had to be human in a moment and how you had a moment of weakness. Like you're not telling them those stories, but you want them to open up to you, and it doesn't work like that. It's not until you share with them your story that they'll feel like they can open up to you and share something with you. Because you're the adult. They're the child. They might be 20 years old. They're still children. I'm 38 years old and I have childish ways sometimes. We all have those moments, right? But they look up to you because you're in a position of leadership. And if you can't lead them, then where do they go? I just want you to think about that. If you're not going to lead them to the path that you want them to go, like you want them to open up, but you're not even going down that route, and they're following you, they stay on the same path that they've been on. Now, I'm not saying that this is the best way to do it, but think about it like this. What if you were to go up to a student athlete who you know is having trouble, right? You know that they're having a tough time in life. Well, you were to go up to them and say, you know what? I've been having a rough time too. I really think that you should go to somebody. Guess what? I think I should have been doing that too. How about we go talk to somebody together tomorrow? How about you and I just go and get a cup of coffee or go sit down and talk somewhere tomorrow? Let's try to work something out together. It's a level of self-awareness that a lot of kids really aren't used to. Right? And you might be able to give them a different way of looking at a situation. I had a conversation with my father probably about two or 3 years ago. Had a conversation with him, and it got pretty heated. And he was talking about how when he was younger, how his dad would beat on his mom, how his dad was an alcoholic, right? how he never learned anything from his father. And I'm sitting there, we're outside, and we're leaning on my dad's truck, and I'm trying to talk to him just like, Pop, like you did learn something. And at this point, he's furious. And he has tears coming down his eyes, and he says, Jason, I haven't learned from my father. Not once. That man didn't teach me a single thing. Nothing. I'm sick of you telling me I learned something from my father. I'm sick of you telling me that I learned something. I need you to shut up. I said, Pop. I said, man, just listen to me for just 1 second. I said, the reason why you learned something is because he taught you what not to be. He taught you all the things that you shouldn't do as a man. And because you saw that, because he taught you what not to do, you still learned what was right to do. And he looked at me straight in my eyes in that moment, and he just stopped. And he had more tears coming down his face, and he said, Jason, he said, I never looked like that. I never saw that situation in light to where he taught me something even in the negative situation. I said, Pop, that was all I was trying to show you. Is that there's always a different way to look at the situation. But until you're willing to look and find it, you're never going to see it. And so what happens is we don't think about how we can show these kids a different way to look at situations. And because we don't show them the different ways to look at things, they get tunnel vision. And they see things their way, in their way only. And because they only see it one way, we can't help them. And it's not until you give them a different way to look at things. It's not until you share some type of story with them where they can say, oh, okay, I get it. You're not a robot either. You're human just like me. Right? It's those type of moments where they can say, I didn't look at it like that, but I can work on it now because I get what you're saying. I get it now. They'll have that light bulb moment. But we have to be able to share those experiences with them. I was working at a place one time, and just bad leadership. Have you ever worked at a place where it was just a bad leader, just like it just wasn't a good person in that leadership spot? Right? So I was working at a place, and what happened was there was an individual that was sitting across from me, and she had found a better job. Before she had left, we were able to use this office. Right, I was able to go in there, use the microwave if I needed to, go in there and use the fridge if I needed to. It was no big deal. Right, but then when this individual left, I was unable to use that office anymore. And then I was unable to use the microwave anymore. And then I was no longer allowed to go into the office anymore. And it really pissed me off, if I'm being fully transparent. I just wanted a hot lunch. Right? Like I'm just trying to use the fridge. I don't have to talk to you. If you don't like me, that's fine. I just need the fridge. But the man told me, he said, you know what you can do? He said, there's a building across the way. If I'm not here, go use that one. One of those moments where I said, Lord, help me now. Right? And so we went through that situation. I went to go and talk to his boss. I said, you know what? I said, look. I said, I don't think the office is an issue. I think I'm an issue. I think that this man just has a problem with me. I said, the reason why I think that, I said, because if it was an issue with the office, then the other person wouldn't have been able to use it either. The other person wouldn't have been able to use the microwave and the fridge. Like, we would have never been able to use that office in the first place. And I said, I really don't want to look at it as a situation where I think that it's discrimination. I really don't want to look at it as if it's some type of racism that's happening. I really don't want to look at it as if the individual doesn't like me. I said, but the perception is my reality right now. The perception of what he's saying and how he's acting with me, that's my reality. So I can only think of it in that manner. And so how many times have you seen a student, right? Or you treated a student a certain way, not knowing what they might be going through, right? And you treated that situation as a situation alone. And now this student is over here going through something. And now their perception of you is something negative. Because their reality is something different. Does that make sense? Like, they've looked at you now in this situation that they're going through, and their perception of you is now their reality. And you might not have meant anything by what you said. You might not have meant anything negative in what you have done. The problem is that their perception of the situation is their reality, and they don't know how to adjust to it. Like, we're all in here as adults, and these are all kids. And so when we go through certain situations in life, we're able to actually pull from past experiences that we've had, right? And we're able to adjust to certain things differently. But a lot of these kids right now, they don't have the experiences that we have as adults. So they're trying to pull from experiences that they don't have. And so what their reality is going to be what their perception of you is. Once again, be as tough as you need to be. We want to win games. We want to win championships. We want to be an elite university where people come to this college and they say, Tennessee finna give us the work. Like, they finna give us everything they got. I get it. But I need you all to also understand that these kids need you to be their mentor, their coach, their uncle, their aunt, a listening ear. Sometimes they'll benefit from just talking and you listening and not saying a single word. It's just like Mark said earlier, before I came up here. You don't really know if a student you until you show them that you care about them. They won't know if you care if you don't show them that you care. And it can't just be in the sport, right? I'll tell you what I did. As a leader, the one thing that I would always do before I got into speaking, when I used to work and I was a manager of a warehouse, the one thing I would always do as a leader is I didn't just ask you how your day was. When I first got to a place, I said, hey, do you have any kids? Are you married? Where'd you go to school at? Who's your favorite football team? Who's your favorite baseball team? And the reason why I did that was because I wanted to connect with them on a different level outside of work. So when they came in sometimes, I would say, hey, how the kids doing? Valentine's Day come around. Get something for your wife, brother? I don't want you coming here tomorrow limping. Because I know what happened if you ain't get that gift, okay? And I'm going to still expect 100% because it's your fault. Right? But if you don't show them that you actually care about them, if you don't actually show them and take the time out of your day to just say, hey, is everything going good outside of sports? I'm sure you focus on the academics because without academics, they can't play. Right? But do you ask them if they have any siblings? Do you know if any of their parents are sick? Do you know if They had a family member that died around February. I get it, it's tough. It's a tough job to have. Sometimes you have to learn over 50 kids. Right, football, about 50 plus kids. That's a tough job. But would you rather have a tough job and touch their life, or have a tough job and watch them die? And I'm just being real right now. Because we all have an opportunity to touch every single one of these kids. We all have an opportunity to help them get on a better mental health journey. But it's really not until you decide to show them what a mental health journey looks like, and to show them that I haven't always had it together, and guess what? Today, I don't have it all together. I'm working through some things too. You don't have to tell them everything. Just tell them something. How many of you have done the DISC assessment? So let me tell you this, the DISC assessment is a personality assessment. And what that does is it shows you how you can communicate with every personality type that there is. You can take these for free online for yourself, and I would highly recommend it because it'll show you why you operate the way that you do. So in this DISC, the D is for dominant, the I is for influence, the S is for stability, and the C is for cautious. I'm a high I because I'm a talker. I love building relationships. Right? I get my energy from being around people. I know that about myself. Right? But if you don't know certain things about yourself, there's no way for you to relate to others. And sometimes you just have to take a deeper dive into yourself to understand why you act the way that you do, why you operate the way that you do, because then that can help you operate and communicate with other people differently. If you all have the opportunity to save one person's life, if you all have the opportunity to communicate with somebody at a higher level, if you all have the opportunity to have kids be at their best, even when they're at their worst, why not take advantage of it? If tomorrow is not guaranteed, then take advantage of today. And today is a great day to speak to one of your athletes or your entire team and save a life today. Thank you, that's my time.
Great opportunity for us to dialogue, ask questions, and Anthony's here to ask questions. I was really impressed with the questions that you all asked in the fall when he was here. So let's take advantage of that now.
I'll start. So we've seen you, heard you speak 4 times now.
Yes, sir.
All 4 times you've worn a shirt that says resilience. So if we're talking about mental health, if we're talking about resiliency, how do we help teach our athletes where the line is? Because a lot of times you can get that, well, you just got to be a little bit more resilient when something maybe bigger is happening. So how do we help them find that line?
So it is a very fine line between, right, knowing when you can handle it yourself and knowing when you actually need to get help, right? And one of the things that I would say is understanding yourself enough and paying attention to the signs that your body is giving you, right? To be able to say, okay, I can't do it. So let me give you an example. I know when I'm about to get angry. I know when I'm about to get agitated. I know for a fact that when I start getting into a mode where my body just starts to feel a certain way, I know that I need to step away from a situation. And one of the examples I like to use is like your gas, the needle in your car for the gas, right? It gives you a yellow light when you're about to be on E, right? So we need to pay attention to our body the same way, because what it does is our body gives us signals and signs, right? To let you know when you're going down a negative path. But the other side to that is a student might not know what that line is, right? And it's up to you as a coach and as an adult to also pay attention to them as well, right? And that goes back to talking about paying attention to them and showing them that you care outside of the sport. Because if we don't do that, they'll never be able to come to you to let you know that they're close to the line, right? And that's what we want them to do. That's the ultimate goal, is that we want them to be able to come up to us and tell us when they're not feeling a certain way. Because sometimes, like I said, we put on this mask where everything seems okay, and it's really not, right? So I would challenge you and all of you as coaches to show them that you care a little bit more, right? So that they feel comfortable enough to open up to you and let you know when they're getting close to that line. Does that answer your question? Okay. Yes, sir.
So when we observe a friend, student athlete that just doesn't seem to be at 100%, is it an appropriate way just to ask the question is, are you at 100% today? Is that a fair,
Absolutely,
the right way to ask that question? And will that help them open up to us?
So I think the question is valid, right? Like, are you at 100% today? I think the better question would be is, how was your day today? And then as the adult, being able to cipher through that and filter through and say, okay, they might be going through something challenging today. I'm gonna still push them, but I'm gonna let them know that I understand them, right? And then we can grow from there. But the asking if you're 100%, asking if they're okay, that's a very valid question to ask. And I think it's once again, any question that you ask them is going to be a good question to ask. You just don't ask them the question and say, hey, Levita, how's your day? And then you're off to something else right away, right? Like, actually listen and care about what that person is about to say to you. Because if you're asking just because you think that's the right thing to do, they can read that, and then you've made the situation even worse. Because now they tried to talk to you about something, and now they don't feel like you care, and now they're 10 steps further behind. Now you have an even bigger challenge of trying to find out if that person's ever going to go through something. You have a harder time trying to figure out, if that person will ever come and talk to somebody else, and now you've created a bigger situation. So listen to that individual, listen to that person when they're talking to you and telling you what's going on, and don't just listen because you think don't just hear them, right? Actually listen to them. And that's when you'll truly find like the biggest difference, and you'll truly see that, they'll start coming up to you and saying, hey, coach, or Mark, or Mandy, or Levita. I wish I could say everybody's name, but I don't know all of you, right? But that's when they'll really start to come up to you on their own, because they actually think that you care. And when they believe that you care, things change drastically. Anybody else?
Yeah, of course.
Yes, sir.
I guess it's a little bit of a piggyback off that. Like when you said you was training your daughter, and she told you she had a bad day, you basically said, just ball it up. Is that more of a self deal? Because I don't know if I feel comfortable telling them. Like one of my kids come to me and say, Coach, I'm having a bad day. Do I push that aside and just let it go and tell them to ball it up to another time? Or how do you address balling things up, telling somebody to ball things up, and when you stop everything and take care of the issue?
So let me tell you, when I was training my daughter, the reason why I was able to tell my daughter that I don't care in that moment, right, is because I built a relationship up with her up until that moment, right? She already knows that I care. You know what I mean? She already knows that I love her. She already knows that I'm more interested in her outside of the sport than I am in the sport, right? So if somebody's coming up to you for the very first time, right, and they say, hey, coach, I'm having a bad day, I don't recommend saying, I don't care, ball it up. Go back out on the court and do your thing, or excuse me, the field, and do your thing. I don't care, right? I don't recommend doing that because it's the first time. What I would say is that if they come up to you for the very first time and they say, hey, coach, like I'm not having a good day, and practice is about to start, right? Let them understand that, all right, cool, you're having a bad day. Look, I get it, brother. This is what we're going to do. After practice, like, come and talk to me. I'm going to be tough on you in practice because we have practice, right? And I want you to be at your best. And it's going to teach you a lesson. I'm going to share that lesson with you after practice, right? But give me your best effort in practice, even though you're going through this challenge right now. And let's talk about it after practice. And I'll teach you the lesson afterwards, right? And that lesson can be how to compartmentalize, right? But tell them that you're going to teach them a lesson, right? And that you're going to show them something in this moment that they're going to be able to benefit from. And then when you talk to them about it afterwards, you can share that with them and maybe share something about yourself that you've had to compartmentalize yourself, right? And then I promise you, you'll start to see that relationship grow. And if you do that with all of your players, like as many of them as you can, I promise you things will change. You run through a wall for the people you trust. I've had coaches where I wouldn't have done anything for them because I trusted them that much. But if I don't trust you, I can't give you 100% if I don't trust you because I don't know where you're taking me. And I don't like walking anywhere with a blindfold on. Does that answer your question though?
Yes.
Perfect. Anybody else? All right. Well, thank y'all. I appreciate it.
Keep dialogue going, okay? This is not a one-time thing, okay? Talk amongst your colleagues in your programs. Talk about people outside your programs, okay? It's not just today. It's not just this week. It's ongoing, and just make sure, like, if you're not having a good day, okay, talk about it, okay? I'm not my best every day. I'm not. But then talk about it, you know? Okay. Find somebody that you can talk to. Levine and Mandy, they're two of the people that when I'm not having a good day, they're two of the people, they know. Right? Because we are family. Families care about each other. And it's not just us in this room, it's student athletes. And we have phenomenal opportunity. I love the stat, people can impact 10 lives in their lifetime. And you were doing that. More than that, every day. And I thank you for that. Because you are. I see that. Well, we forget about that, right? We forget about how impact that we have. And it's tremendous. So that's sticking with me. So thank you for that. And thank you for your time to come, spend with us. And we've really enjoyed having you all 4 sessions this year. So
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Applause for Anthony.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Y'all have a great rest of your day. Happy Valentine's. Love you all. Thank you.
No, thank you. I really appreciate it. I enjoy being able to come out here and share my story. And
Good. Yeah, it's good.
Thank
Wes, how are you today?
Good.
Good.
That's a question, but I can't really talk about. I just came back
From the dentist?
Yeah.
I got that numb lip.
Yeah.
Watch that water intake.
My biggest thing.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
Well.
Is on like the brand. So like I coach quarterbacks, but I also coach offensive coordinator. So like I'm at 4 or 5 people I can do every day.
Right.
And I get charged 50 people. This guy's like, I know what he's supposed to, and I've made this mistake, like come at this guy kind of high, and I didn't know. I mean, we had a kid like his grandma died last year.
Right.
And like I didn't know that,
Right.
Where do you like? How's there communication? Is it just communication? We need to talk better. More open dialogue.
I think one of the questions you can always ask. Hey, no, thank you. I appreciate it. I think one of the questions you can always ask, like just on a daily basis, is is anybody going through anything today that's not going to put them at 100%? Right, like before the day starts.
Yeah.
Right, because then you take the weight off of yourself and you put the responsibility on them now. Right, it's not that you didn't ask; it's that they didn't tell you. Right, and so that makes it a little bit easier for you to feel. Not, I don't want to say feel better about yourself, right? But you did your part in trying to extend, you know, and then do it every day, because not everybody's going to be able to, you know, open up and tell you everything, right? But sometimes just feel the pulse, right? Like look around.
I can just tell those guys.
Right. And then just pull them aside and be like, hey, it's like, hey, I saw that your head was down. You know, is everything good?
Because I remember like being halfway through practice before I found out something different. You know what I'm saying? And then once I found out, like, oh, shoot,
Right.
You know, I just didn't know.
And what I would suggest is, like, if you find out and you've been tough on somebody right afterwards, I would say, you know what? I didn't know that you were going through anything. I said I would still be tough, but it would be a different kind of tough. Right. And
Firm but understanding.
Right.
Because we still got a job to do, but
you still got to win games. Like, and if you don't win games, like honestly speaking, as a coach, if you don't win games, you lose your job.
that's
Right. Like, this is the way you take care of your family. So at the same time, like, that's what I'm saying. Like, understanding that, you know, if you can be firm with them and still show them that you love them, like, that relationship changes. You just have to, you know, be willing to, you know, open up to them.
I appreciate that.
No, thank you, man. I appreciate the question. Oh no, you. I've been there. I had my 4 wisdom teeth taken out. No problem. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
No,
You nailed it today.
thank you.
Fantastic. I don't know where you keep getting that from, but that doesn't make